Story 1. In the dead silence of space, the crew of the starship Eclipse stumbled upon an uncharted planet. The ship's sensors detected faint signals emanating from its surface, a pattern too deliberate to be natural. Intrigued and bound by curiosity, Captain Mira Voss ordered a descent. The planet was a desolate wasteland, cloaked in perpetual twilight. As the crew ventured deeper into the alien terrain, they discovered an ancient derelict structure, its spires jagged like broken teeth and walls inscribed with glyphs that pulsed faintly with an eerie green light. Inside, the air was thick and damp, carrying an unplaceable metallic tang. Dr. Lang, the ship's xenolinguist, paused to study the glyphs, mumbling about their possible meanings. Warning, containment, awakening. The deeper they delved, the more they felt watched. Shadows moved in ways that defied logic, and faint whispers echoed through the halls, a language no one understood, yet somehow comprehended. By the time they reached the central chamber, unease had settled heavily over the group. In the heart of the chamber lay a massive cocoon-like structure, pulsating rhythmically as though breathing. Around it, dozens of humanoid figures were sprawled, their faces frozen in terror, eyes hollow, as if something had devoured their very essence. Suddenly, the chamber's walls began to shift and quiver. A low guttural hum reverberated through the air, growing louder with each passing second. The cocoon split open, revealing a towering alien entity, its body composed of shimmering black tendrils that moved like liquid shadows, its eyes orbs of glowing void. One by one, the crew's flashlights flickered and died, plunging the chamber into oppressive darkness. Then came the voice, deep and resonant, speaking directly into their minds. "You've come to feed it." Panic erupted. Lieutenant Hayes fired his plasma rifle, but the beams were swallowed by the darkness. The creature moved with impossible speed, its tendrils reaching out to ensnare the crew. As it touched them, they convulsed, their screams echoing, before abruptly falling silent. Captain Voss watched in horror as her crew was consumed. She scrambled backward, clutching a flare from her utility belt. With trembling hands, she struck it, casting a fleeting crimson glow across the chamber. The alien recoiled, its form writhing and fracturing in the sudden light. Seizing the moment, Mira sprinted for the exit. The structure's corridors seemed to stretch endlessly, shifting and spiraling as though the planet itself sought to trap her. The whispers grew deafening, urging her to turn back, to embrace the inevitable. Finally, she burst out onto the surface, gasping for air. Behind her, the structure shuddered and began to sink into the ground, as if retreating. The signals from the ship's sensors ceased. Mira reached the Eclipse and initiated takeoff. As the ship ascended, she glanced out the viewport at the shrinking planet below. The stars beyond it seemed dimmer, their light struggling to pierce the void. In her quarters, Mira replayed the events in her mind. But as she sat in silence, the faintest echo of that deep, resonant voice whispered once more, "It's only the beginning." Story 2. The fog rolled in thick and fast over the coastal town of Black Hollow, muffling the usual sounds of crashing waves and distant gull cries. Tonight, something darker stirred within the mist. Jenny Mathers was walking home from her late shift at the diner, her footsteps echoing on the deserted streets. The streetlights flickered, casting long, wavering shadows that danced like specters on the wet pavement. She clutched her coat tighter around her breath fogging in the cold air. Halfway home, she noticed something strange. A low, pulsating hum drifted from the woods bordering the town. It wasn't the wind or the distant rumble of the sea. It felt alive, a vibration that resonated in her bones. Jenny hesitated. her instincts screaming to turn away, but curiosity clawed at her. She stepped off the path and into the woods. The further she walked, the louder the hum grew, accompanied by an eerie, otherworldly light that filtered through the trees. The air felt thick, almost oppressive. She stumbled into a clearing and froze. At the center of the clearing stood a monolithic structure, smooth and black, its surface glistening as though coated in oil. The hum emanated from it, the sound almost hypnotic. Jenny's heart raced as she crept closer. Strange symbols, like a language from another world, pulsed along the surface in rhythm with the sound. Her fingertips itched to touch it, but she stopped short, a deep sense of dread washing over her. The hum abruptly stopped. Silence fell, heavy and absolute. Jenny's breath caught as the structure began to shift, its surface rippling like water. From its depths emerged a form, tall and impossibly slender, its skin a shifting mosaic of colors that seemed to absorb the light. It had no eyes, yet she felt its gaze pierce through her, an overwhelming sense of being utterly exposed. It moved with unnatural grace, gliding toward her without a sound. Jenny stumbled backward, her scream caught in her throat. The creature extended a hand, or what passed for one, and her vision blurred as a searing pain erupted in her skull. Images flooded her mind, burning worlds, endless voids, and an unyielding hunger. Jenny collapsed to her knees, clutching her head. The creature's thoughts mingled with hers, an alien consciousness, probing and twisting her memories. It wasn't just a visitor. It was a harbinger, a scout for something far worse. The creature retracted its hand, leaving Jenny trembling in the dirt. The monolith's hum resumed, and the being dissolved back into its obsidian depths. As the light faded and the mist thickened, Jenny staggered to her feet and fled. She burst into the diner hours later, disheveled and wide-eyed, muttering incoherently about the woods, the light, and the thing she had seen. The patrons exchanged uneasy glances, dismissing her story as hysteria or the result of too little sleep. But the hum never left her. At night, she heard it in her dreams, and every morning, she woke with bloodshot eyes and the taste of ash in her mouth. Days later, reports began to surface. Livestock found mutilated, strange lights in the sky, and the disappearance of townsfolk. Black Hollow grew silent, the once lively town succumbing to fear. And then, one night, the hum grew deafening, heard by all. The mist returned, thicker than ever, and with it came the beings, no longer scouts but an invading force. Jenny watched from her window as they emerged, their forms multiplying, their purpose clear. Black Hollow's final night was marked not by screams, but by an unnatural silence, a void where life once thrived. When the mist finally cleared, the town was empty, its streets eerily pristine, as if no one had ever lived there. Jenny's warning had gone unheeded, but in the depths of the forest, the monolith pulsed on, a silent beacon calling to others from the stars. Story 3: The Whispering Void. The night sky over Dry Creek was a tapestry of stars, undisturbed by the artificial glow of city lights. Annie, a park ranger stationed at the desolate Black Ridge Observatory, enjoyed the solitude the wilderness offered. But tonight, something felt off. The air was heavy, oppressive, as if the forest itself held its breath. She stood at the edge of the observation deck, scanning the horizon with her binoculars. The radio at her side crackled faintly, static breaking the silence. Annie frowned and adjusted the frequency. "Base, this is Ranger Annie. Everything's quiet out here. Over." No response. She sighed, lowering the binoculars. The static on the radio grew louder, morphing into a garbled series of clicks and hums. Annie's skin prickled. It sounded almost but not quite like a voice. Before she could investigate further, a blinding flash lit up the sky, followed by a deep, resonant hum that reverberated through her bones. She shielded her eyes, heart pounding. When she looked again, a massive pulsating object hovered above the treetops, its surface shifting like liquid metal. Annie's instincts screamed at her to run, but her legs felt rooted to the ground. The object descended slowly, its form becoming clearer. It wasn't a craft, at least not in any human sense. It was alive. The surface rippled, and dark, sinewy tendrils began to unfurl, reaching toward the ground. The radio hissed violently, and a voice, or something approximating one, spoke. "You see, you hear, you belong." Annie stumbled back, breaking her trance. She bolted down the narrow trail leading to the ranger station, her flashlight flickering erratically. The forest seemed to close in around her, the towering pines swaying despite the still air. She could hear it now, a low guttural whisper that seemed to emanate from the very earth. She burst into the station and slammed the door shut, her breaths ragged. Grabbing the shotgun from the rack, she backed into a corner. The windows rattled as the hum grew louder, accompanied by a rhythmic thumping that seemed to sync with her racing heartbeat. Suddenly, the lights flickered and the temperature plummeted. Frost crept along the glass, and Annie could see her breath fogging in the icy air. A shadowy figure appeared beyond the window, its form indistinct but unmistakably alien. It had no eyes, yet she felt its gaze piercing her. "Leave me alone," she screamed, firing a shot through the window. The glass shattered, but the figure remained untouched, its shape shifting like smoke. The whispering grew louder, overlapping voices speaking in an incomprehensible language. Annie's vision blurred, her head throbbing with an unbearable pressure. The figure dissolved into a swirling vortex of darkness, and from it emerged a grotesque, multi-limbed entity that barely fit within the station's confines. Its appendages writhed, each tipped with claw-like extensions that dripped with a viscous black fluid. Annie's body refused to move as the creature loomed over her, its tendrils reaching out to encircle her. The radio crackled once more, the same distorted voice echoing, "You see, you hear, you become." With a final ear-splitting screech, everything went dark. When Annie awoke, she was no longer in the station. She stood in an endless, starless void, the alien entity hovering before her. Its tendrils wove intricate patterns in the air, and she felt a strange cold clarity seep into her mind. "You are the bridge," the voice intoned. "They will follow." Her screams were swallowed by the void as her transformation began. In the distant woods of Dry Creek, the forest stood silent, save for the faint hum that now pulsed in time with the stars.